Arizona football continues to get good news. What does this mean? Is Brent Brennan turning the corner? All of that and more.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. This show is brought to you today by Gametime. Again, Gametime, you got the best deals, the best prices. You can go there and, again, check it out at gametime.com. Again, all kinds of really good stuff. All right, now, Arizona football, we've got a lot of stuff to discuss today. Again, I don't know why the overlay or the background didn't change. That's something that's odd. We're going to be talking about different things, but we're also going to be talking about some of the same things as well. All right, now the first thing that I want to talk about, though, is, again, Noah Fifita obviously back. That's a big thing. I think that's something, too, that you got to give Seth Dagey a lot of credit for. Again, he put out there, he said, let's ready to rock and roll, and I think it's pretty much at that point. Now, we need to also talk about, too, where Arizona is then with some of these other players. And he's done a very nice job across the board. I don't think there's really any other way to put it. You look at Genesis Smith. That was a very, very nice get for the University of Arizona. I do have a feeling that a lot of these players maybe went there and they decided that we are going to decide that let's go and let's just tease the people there up in SRS, and then we will go from there. And that appears to be some of what actually just happened there. We will see how that does play out. Now, I think the thing that we need to also talk about too is where is then some of these other players? The secondary is back, and the secondary looks loaded. You look at it. Obviously, you've got Tacario Davis is moving on. He most likely will be going on to the NFL. I don't know that I'm breaking any news there, but he's most likely going to be going on to the NFL. And that's we'll see how that does play out. Some of the other guys though are going to be very, very fascinating to see how this does all play out as well. The first one that I think we need to talk about though is, again, Dalton Johnson is back. The safeties all of a sudden look pretty strong. The safeties right now all of a sudden look like they got a lot going for it. Now, Dalton Johnson, I am a big fan of Dalton Johnson. Dalton Johnson to me is one of those players that you don't really quite appreciate until he's until he's not around. And I think you see that he's kind of the quarterback of the defense, and he's somebody that I think it's very difficult to say is not a big news getting him back. That's a very big one for Arizona. You also look around, and I think you also see that you've got a situation where you look at this team and you're like, okay, who else do you have out here? Who else could make a play? Trayden Stukes, that's going to be an interesting one to see how that one does play out as well, because as many of you know, I think a lot of people think of Trayden Stukes as being the best nickel in the country, and if he's not the best nickel in the country, he certainly is right up there. Stukes is just good at football. That's really just the best way to put it. Stukes is good at football, and he's the epitome of one of those guys that it doesn't necessarily show up totally in the box score what his impact is. He's physical. He can play at the line of scrimmage. He can also get back. He's just a really, really good football player. There's really no other way around it. I think the thing that's also fascinating to him about him as well is that he wants to get in there. He wants to crack some heads, as they say, and he's just, like I said, football just kind of comes naturally to him. You got to be able to, I think you see that and you're kind of like, all right, well, let's see how that one does play out. Now, some of the other players then, could Jacob Manu be back? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting one to see. Jacob Manu, obviously this was a tough year for Jacob Manu. He came in kind of out of shape. And not only did he kind of come in out of shape, he also was the guy that you kind of look at and you're like, okay, what's that next level going to bring? I don't really know what that is, but with Jacob Manu, I think that you want to see, how far can he take this one? Because I don't really know the deal with that. We'll see. Does he end up in SRS, smelly, rainy Seattle? I tend to say no, but this day and age, who really knows how something like that's going to play out? It could play out basically any way that you see it, and I don't think that it would really surprise anybody. So there's obviously that. Now, the let's talk a little bit about how you get these where you get all of this then as far as Arizona goes. Who else do you got? Now you got to get defensive linemen. You don't really have, again, you got in Chancellor Owens. Chancellor Owens looks the part. He put up pretty good numbers at Northwestern State, but again, that's also Northwestern State. Not sure exactly what that means, but it's still better than not having anything. And I think that's something that you've got to keep in mind. We talked about it before. You got Chuba back. Not sure that's a great thing, but at least it's depth. That's something that's something obviously to keep in mind or your mind on as well. Then you've also got a situation where I think you've got to talk about where is Arizona then when it comes to somebody like on the defensive line. I know that you're going to be getting some more players. We'll see how that does play out. But overall, overall, I got to say that I think they've done a decent job in the portal. I think Javion Cole is going to start. I would imagine Marquise Groves Killebrew starts. Then after that, we'll see how this all does play out. But overall, pretty good. I think pretty good stuff when it comes to Arizona football. And the other thing too that also is exciting is. That's also exciting about this is where exactly then do you look at and say, okay, I think we're kind of at the stage 2 where you need to be able to get some other players, and that's going to be pass rushers. Trey Smith's okay. He doesn't stink, but at the same time, I think you also need to be able to get somebody in there that is, how do I put this? This is going to be an interesting thing to be able to watch and how this does play out because, again, this is a spot where it's going to be fascinating to see how this does play. I do not know. I do not know exactly how this is going to play. We're going to find this out, though. But the defense, again, you're probably going to have Danny Gonzalez as the defensive coordinator, and we'll find out exactly how this does play. Now, some of the other things too that I think we need to talk about as the defensive tackles. Like I said, I'm not huge on Chuba. You got Isaiah Johnson back. That's obviously good. Now, we are going to get to the offensive side of things here because the offense is very, very interesting for me here because you've got Noah back. And again, that is a massive, massive deal because you weren't going to get anybody better than Noah in the portal. You also got to understand, too, that when you watch Noah Fifita, you can just see that with Noah Fifita, football just kind of comes easy to him. But this last year, nothing came easy. And again, I think that was a lot of that, I think, was an OC that was in way over his head in Dino Babers. And I think that's obviously something that wasn't great about Arizona. And I think that, again, I'm not going to sit back. I'm not going to, sit here and say it wasn't. But that's also, that I think that was also kind of malfeasance there by the coaching staff. I think that we're kind of at the stage 2 where you also know that Arizona is where this is all where this is at. Now, the other thing too that think we need to talk about too is where is this at when it comes to the offense. And we are going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this for in here in just a second. And I think the first thing that we do need to talk about, though, too, is Rocket Mortgage. Oh, boy. Let's talk about a little bit of Rocket Mortgage. Okay, here's where it is with Rocket Mortgage. All right, did Rocket Money help you find any subscription you forgot about us or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Okay, here's the deal with Rocket Mortgage. You also know you can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goal faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com slash lookout today. That's rocketmoney.com slash locked on. Rocketmoney.com slash locked on. Again, the thing with Rocket Money too is that everybody's used it before as well. For me, one of the best features was the subscription tracker. I've used the cancel services I wasn't using anymore. And again, it saved me a ton. Rocket Mortgage was absolutely great in all of this. And I think with Rocket Mortgage, best thing about it too is that it's not going anywhere. You know that not only is it not going anywhere, there's some really good stuff involved with it. Again, check it out at Rocket Mortgage. Now, the other thing too that I think we also need to talk about too is that Gametime. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, Gametime, what can Gametime do for me? I think the question isn't what can Gametime do for you, but what can we all do for Gametime? I am just kidding with that. But here's the thing with Gametime that's also very, very cool. You can download the Gametime app today, and again, the use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. With that, Gametime is great. Again, Gametime, all kinds of good stuff. And again, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That is the best thing about it too. With Gametime, again, it's a lot of good stuff. And again, I think the other thing that you've also got to realize too is that this isn't just for basketball. This isn't just for football. This is just for a lot of different things. With Gametime, again, it's all good stuff. And again, here's the deal. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms comply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime. What time is it? Gametime. Ooh. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now here's the deal with Here's the deal with Gametime. Gametime with the offense. Keyan Burnett is now going on to Kansas. I think with Kansas, that's an interesting fit. With Keyan, I love Keyan Burnett. I love the family. I love everything about them. I don't think Arizona necessarily utilized him right, but he was also hurt this year. But going on to Kansas, we're going to find out exactly how that does play out. So Arizona's going to need a tight end, and like I said, you can't just get guys like Sam Olsen left and right. I mean, that's for sure. On the at the wide receiver position, here's where I'm at with this. We also know at the wide receiver position that Arizona last year, you're losing the best wide receiver in school history. There's no other way around it. Not only is there no other way around it, this is a spot at the wide receiver spot where you know that you needed to get better players. Now, again, we like Jeremiah Patterson on this show. We are big fans of Jeremiah Patterson on this show. And again, with Jeremiah Patterson, the thing that's also very interesting about him is that he's a guy that didn't really put up a lot of numbers. So you bring in some other guys, maybe Jeremiah Patterson does reemerge. But either way, you got Luke Weissong coming in, 1,000-yard guy out of New Mexico. You've obviously got Chris Henry back. Chris Henry, and not only that, you've also got a situation where you've also got Chris Hunter, and you can bring in a Washington State guy, caught for 700 yards, 5-6 touchdowns. That is going to be a deeper unit. Now, again, you're not going to have the top end talent, the T-Mac, but that's just the way it is. That's just kind of the way it is. So there is that. Now on the offensive line, this will continue to be my concern. You've got to get guys on the line. I think that Brennan has shown that he can do some really, really good things. I think my concern though is that My concern, though, is that when it comes to the offensive and the defensive side of the football, you've got to be able to get guys that are at least passable. If you don't get guys that are at least passable, I think that becomes a problem. And when I say that, you should be able to get guys. Like I said, you look at what Jed was able to do, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but you look at what Jed was able to do. Jed on the offensive side or the defensive side was able to get a Tyler Manoa, a Tia Savea, guys that were kind of afterthoughts, but you know what, they figured out a really nice role. Big CO out of Indiana, kind of the same way. Guys that again were not huge names, but we're also big parts of all of this. So there is obviously that. Then when you get to so again, you should be able to find guys, and some of these guys too were found in the last portal. Like I said, a Taylor Upshaw, a CO, you can find guys, and then on the offensive line, I just need a passable unit. But what I can't have happen anymore is the planned out stuff. Or basically where I'm bringing in OKGs and I'm saying that I've got to play these OKGs. Ryan Stewart was an OKG. Don't really know what else to say. But looking on the line, there's a couple guys. You've got Big Rhino. If Big Rhino is healthy, I think Big Rhino is fine. I got no problem with Big Rhino. And then besides just Big Rhino, I think that Alexander Deuced, I think he has some potential. The Deuced boost on the inside. So there is that. Not only is there that, this is also a spot where you also know that you got to be able to bring in some players because there's a lot of guys on the roster that just weren't good. Now, the staff likes Michael Wooten, and I don't see it with Michael Wooten. I don't think I'll ever see it, but we'll see. Matthew Lotto. I like Matthew Lotto. I think Matthew Lotto has a lot of potential. Matthew Lotto has a lot of potential, and there's obviously that. So you've got those guys. Okay, now when it comes to the interior position, then you've got to be able to get some guys. But I've always felt you should be able to get interior guys. A big part of this, though, I think, is Big Rhino. Big Rhino's got to stay healthy. If Big Rhino stays healthy, then I think Arizona has a decent spot because I think Big Rhino's good. But again, I don't need a great offensive line. I need a passable offensive line. And what I'm going to keep coming back to is this. When it comes to Big Rhino, when it comes to what they're going to do, you got to get some other dudes on there. And I'd love to see, there's going to be, I think, some quick hits, some quick strikes, which I'm a big fan of, honestly. When it comes to the quick strikes, I think that there's something that you can also say that, Arizona needs to do. And not only does Arizona need to do, Arizona needs to do, and we're going to find out exactly what that is. But you need the offensive line to be able to get Noah time. And not only do you need the offensive line to be able to get Noah time, you need to be able to see that. You need to be able to see what that strategy is. As we talked about before, I think Alonzo Carter is an absolute beast. I got no problems whatsoever with anything that Alonzo Carter does. As a matter of fact, I think that Alonzo Carter is the best recruiter on the staff. And he's just, like I said, he's just a really, really good coach. Big fan of Alonzo Carter and everything that he does bring to the table. Kedrick Risano is darn good. You've also got he's also going to find somebody else in there as well that's going to be really, really good as well. So there's obviously that. But I think Arizona, from a skill perspective, I think you got to give them a lot of credit because this has been a difficult spot. And again, people are like, Mike, are you? Here's where I'm at when it comes to this. I think Arizona. I think Brent Brennan obviously and the staff did a terrible job. But I put this out on Twitter. They're back though. It just kind of is what it is. They're back, and we still want Arizona to be good. So let's see what they do. There are some other things too that I've been intrigued by. And we are going to talk about that next. But again, not guaranteeing anything here. That's for sure. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the college football playoffs. Here's the deal with the college football playoffs. Everybody thought Arizona was going to be it, including me. I was wrong. I am an idiot. Okay, it's that time of the year, though. The college football playoffs is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoffs begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoffs presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Here, the other thing too about it is that with college football playoffs, it's a lot. It's fun. It's just check it out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now there are some things that the staff is doing that I think is good, that I got to give them credit for. They are engaging the fan base. Not only are they engaging the fan base, they are not only are they engaging the fan base, this is a fan base that deserves to be engaged. Again, it's a good fan base, and they're putting Brennan's getting out there. They're starting to do some stuff on social media. I get that it's a low bar. I understand all of that. Trust me, I'm the one that I've been harder on them than anybody, but they're back. You want them to still succeed. I put this out there, forgive, but don't forget. I mean, you still have to look at last year and what happened and just what an inept performance that was, but they are back. So what does success look like? And I'm going to keep going back to this. Success looks like you bring in a roster that is more talented across the board. Now, you're not going to have the top-end talent. You don't lose Tetaroa McMillan. You don't lose Big Jonas Sabanea. You don't lose players like that and generally get better, and I'm Josh Baker, Wendell Moy, and I'm skeptical that they will. But either way, you got a better receiving core coming in. You're going to have running backs are going to be fine, but there's certainly areas that you've got to be able to fortify. If you fortify those, then I think you're going to be in a better spot. So there's obviously that. All right, now Arizona basketball, just wanted to touch on a couple quick things. Back in action again. All I care about in this game is Caleb Love. Caleb Love is all that matters to me now because a lot of these guys on the team can't really get better this season. KJ Lewis isn't going to all of a sudden learn how to dribble. Trey Townsend, I don't think is just going to become better all of a sudden. Caleb Love can be significantly better than he has shown. I need Caleb Love to get back to being Caleb Love. If Caleb Love is that dude, then that's kind of where it is at. So I'm interested to see exactly how this does play out. Okay, now the other thing too that I think is very interesting about all of this though is Arizona going into Big 12 play. There's going to be certain things. Arizona's not going to defend the three, but are you going to play Anthony Del Orso? Are you going to? What's the deal with Carter Bryant? Are you going to basically not play Carter Bryant and have him transfer at the end of the season? That's a bunch of things that I think are going to be very interesting to see how this does play out. And if that does all happen, then that is obviously we'll see. But Del Orso can play to a certain extent. Del Orso's got some talent to him, so I don't totally hate all of that as well. But again, we got a new season right around the corner, and we're going to be with you every step of the way. But my big thing, though, is Caleb Love. I just need to see Caleb Love be better. If Caleb Love's better, then Arizona is obviously going to be better. And that's that. So we will see how that one does play out. Now, there is now when it comes to this with Arizona, there's still talent on this team. You're bringing Emmanuel Stephen out of his red shirt, obviously, so you've got to see that. I'm curious to see, though, just how this all does play out this season, because I'm not totally throwing in the towel, but this team clearly has massive flaws that do need to be addressed. And that comes this offseason with being able to recruit. All right, now, we will be back with you on the post-game tomorrow, Arizona basketball. And we will also talk about where Arizona football is in the grand scheme of this. It's going to be interesting to see how this does play out. But again, so far so good for Brennan. Again, It's you get an F that first year, but it is what it is at this point. I'm going to give you an opportunity. And like I said, I know that people hate to hear this sometimes, but he's still a good dude at the end of the day, and you want to see good dudes do well, no matter how frustrating it is. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you on the post game tomorrow, breaking this all down.